So we've got a slightly different business worth living this morning because I've got people in the room with me.
Good morning or good afternoon, whatever time you're watching this.
Hello. Usually there's two faces on the screen, but I'm really grateful that both Peter and Chris were happy to join in our very makeshift studio here this morning to have a conversation. So for people that have been watching these, you know, what we're really wanting to be able to do is have a conversation around a strategic area of our small business, why it's important, some next steps, some practical actions, some people that can help us with what that might look like for us, and just a general bit of a conversation. So it's kind of nice to be able to do this as more of a conversation today. So Peter, I'm going to start with you. Do you want to introduce yourself, your business, and maybe how you ended up here in Gundawindi today?
What a story. I'll keep it really. So my name's Peter Spinder. We actually own two businesses. One is MyMalekso, where we focus on strategy and digital transformation as a large-scale service. We also own a software business called MyMalekso, which helps the SME business owner actually self-manage their own internal consulting. So you go through a questionnaire process. We use artificial intelligence and logic to give you advice based on your particular situation. So it's something we've worked on for the past 2.5 years.
Cool. Yeah. And Chris, what's your role in some of this as well?
Well, my background is I've been consulting for about 30 years. I have founded 6 or 8 companies, and some successful, some not.
Mm-hmm.
And Pete and I were consulting together on a number of projects, and we started talking about an idea as to how we can get our style of business out into the region where it's most important, because unfortunately with small businesses, generally the people who need the most help can't afford it or can't get access, to guys like us. I came out of a sorry, you need to stop that.
So one of the things that I think sometimes can happen for small businesses, including myself, is we can get a bit overwhelmed sometimes with everything that's coming at us.
Absolutely.
And we are maybe reading things, we're listening to podcasts, we're doing all of the things that we're meant to do, and then we go, oh my goodness, all of these people are telling me things that I should be doing that I'm not doing.
It's like nutrition and diet, right? Sort of advice.
Turns out I'm meant to exercise.
Do that.
Exactly. So how do you find, when do people come to you? Do they come at the massive overwhelm stage and they're like, we need help? Do you catch them before that stage?
We get them across the entire spectrum. And what we say to people is that if you're feeling like there's a bit of kerfuffle in the business and you're getting all this different bit of information, kerfuffle, I love it. The best thing that you can do is actually pause and clear your schedule for a full day. I know this could be hard to do, but do it. Clear the schedule. Go away somewhere where you can actually think and do a reflection exercise where you pause, reflect, ask yourself questions of, well, where have I been? Where have I come from? What are the challenges that I've succeeded in addressing? What are the challenges that we've actually haven't met and we failed? Where are we today? Really understand the situation and where do we want to go? And that's a very informal sort of personal reflection activity. What Chris and I often do with business owners and organisations as the initial starting point is to reflect that across the business, across the organisation. And we call that situational analysis.
Mm-hmm.
It's about understanding, okay, well, where has the business come from? What do we do well? What haven't we done so well? Where are we today? Where do we want to go? And then working with the business owner to develop a roadmap. Because as soon as you have a plan and you know what you need to do on a daily basis, it makes life a lot easier. And that kerfuffle just disappears because we've got a set of tasks and it just becomes, okay, if I do X, Y, Z, I'll achieve what I want to achieve.
Yes, okay. I already feel less overwhelmed about our kerfuffle just even thinking about that plan. What are some of the common... I'm sticking with kerfuffle. That's the word of the day.
Good word.
Chris, what are some of the common kerfuffles that you have come across or that you help people? What does that common kerfuffle look like?
Well, generally people are in sort of catch-up mode from day one, especially small businesses. And when I say small business, I've started businesses that have been me, no one else, just me. And at the end of the first couple of months, I'm in a panic. I'm trying to catch up. If you're good at what you're doing, the business is successful if you have faith in it. all of a sudden it starts to happen, and then you are immediately you're behind the 8 ball. So the very first thing I always tell people in that position is just stop, enjoy yourself. If you're not having fun, you're not really going to succeed at it. And the other thing is, we all have, I believe, I often say this to people, we all have 9 lives. If this one doesn't work, take the experience from this one and go off to the next one. But what Pete says is absolutely true. I don't care whether it's 1 person or 3 people or 1,000 people. If you don't have that roadmap, if you don't have those processes in place, then you don't have much of a chance of succeeding in business.
Yeah, I really like that point around 9 lives. So I don't know if you've ever come across an American guy, Brad Lomenick.
No.
I came across him a few years ago, and it was a really useful thing. He talks a lot about how people get attached and their ego gets attached to their job title.
Yeah.
And then it's really hard when you're no longer that job title, you know, and in ag areas, we see it a lot with farmers, right? Who am I when I'm no longer on the farm, and what does that look like? And there's all of the, you know, social and mental health issues that actually go with that. And so that 9 lives idea is another way to put it. And I think that's a really good one for us to look at.
Ego is a really dangerous thing to have in life and in business. And you do need ego in a business, because it's the ego that drives marketing, sales. It's the ego that people actually buy into. But the ego in business that I'm talking about is the business type ego. From a business owner point of view, you want to leave that at the door, because as Julia said, and as Chris said as well, sometimes things need to change, and it's you with the ego that cannot allow the change to happen. And in the end, that causes the roadblock, and it causes the failure, it causes misery.
Yeah, it's quite intriguing, because this is what we do for a living, and we often stop, like here, we've been here for a couple of days. When we're not in meetings with people, we're sitting down saying, we can't lose track of the processes that we have to go through. We are constantly talking about our business and developing our business, thinking about how we can change this, how we can do that better. But most importantly, we're just having a good time.
Yeah.
And because we're having a good time, we have the energy for it.
Yeah.
And I'm no spring chicken, as you can tell.
Oh.
And I've been retired for 10 or 12 years and come back to this because it's so exciting.
Yeah.
Sorry, Julia.
No, we call these we call these conversations a business worth living, because we think that, you know, this is about us living our best life, and business is part of that.
Absolutely.
And how do we make it fun, and how do we actually enjoy what we're doing? Because I think that's a really key part of it. So I love it. I think it's really exciting.
Well, it's interesting, because there is so much opportunity in the regions and rural areas. I mean, there's so much going on and so much more about to happen. But I came out of a very large corporate sphere, big businesses, and I was constantly being, I don't know, I was entertained by the media, I was entertained by government, and all of a sudden I sold a business and I was off everybody's Christmases. It happened overnight. I just heard from nobody, and it's bruising your ego. And then I realised that I wanted to go right back to the beginning and start again. And I literally did. We went back to the beginning and started consulting again. And that's how Pete and I met. And it's just exciting. Here we are out in the regions working. It's great.
Love it, love it. So I agree with you. I think it's really exciting what's on the horizon for rural and regional business communities, not just agriculture. There's lots of other industry out here, although that's often our underpinning or our foundational sector that's providing the rest of us to be able to come and work and play here. What are you guys excited about? What are you seeing on the horizon for regional businesses? What's some of the things that excite you about what you see when you travel around?
For me, probably 2 things. One is the amount of talent that exists in the regions. It's phenomenal how many talented people that we have. And what I love about the regions is the community feeling. It's that connectedness that business owners have with each other, that individuals have with each other. And that is actually tremendous, because when you connect as a community and connect as different business owners together, you can achieve far more together. You can achieve more as a collective, as opposed to just one individual business. And you don't see that in big cities. The other thing that we're excited about is the opportunity that we have because of digital technology. There's so much opportunity that we can tap into. Now, granted, I'm well aware we have issues in terms of some of the connectivity and things like that. But the reality is that if business owners and businesses understand how to utilize the technology and tap into the skills of the people they already have, we're sitting on a phenomenal situation where we can really accelerate regions and own the regions and own the growth and have a lot of fun along the way and build some amazing businesses.
Yeah, really good points. Anything else you'd add to that, Chris?
I would, because we often go into businesses, small businesses might be 20 or 30 or 40 people in the business, or even less sometimes. But if it's a business with staff, we often go in and we find that the businesses come, let me draw an analogy. It's like the marine industry. I've handled a lot of boat builders over the years, and most boat builders in Australia started in their garage, in the backyard. And most of them are still in the backyard, and they're still in that garage mentality. The really successful ones are the ones that bought in process. They identified guys in there, you know, that were working for them, that became superstars in the businesses and went on to be the general managers, and then you know, went into export with them. So somewhere, if you've got 20 people, there are superstars in there, but you may never know if you don't sort of really interact with them and use these tools that are available. And that's the thing that I think that is really sort of lacking in the regions, is accessibility to the tools. There are so many tools that you can use to hire well, to make sure you hire by your company values, for performance monitoring and so on and so forth. All that sort of stuff is really important. And these things are not expensive. They're not Fortune 500 company tools. They're so accessible and so easy. And if people, I think that's one of the things that we can do. I mean, I really like, you know, Pete and I always talk about altruism, because there's a fair amount of idealism in what I'm doing. I want to build something. You know, working for big companies, you don't see any reward. You get the money, but there's no reward. Whereas if you come to a company and start working with them in the regions, and that company develops and grows and doubles over a couple of years, that's fabulous. That's what I want. And look at the opportunity we've got in this country to grow regional industry and regional businesses. Yeah. We spend a lot of time on the coast telling people what's going on out here, and they go, no, that can't be right.
Oh, it is.
Oh, no,
it is right.
We're more important than you guys.
Oh, there's people inland?
Yeah, that's right. There's something over the range.
Yeah.
What?
So let's take all those things that they've got in there and get them out here and make them accessible and use them.
Love it. So if people were to talk to you, like if people watch this and they go, Pete and Chris are speaking my language, you know, they've talked about problems that we've got. Process doesn't all have to be innovation, like it doesn't have to all be digital, and you and I have had that conversation before. This is about a different way of thinking around our business as well, which is really important.
And it's really important for people to understand that digital is purely there to enable human beings. I don't think this is going to disappear anytime soon. A handshake is far more powerful than doing something virtually. But it's important for people to recognize that in today's competitive landscape, we need to be thinking how we can use technology to enable, to run processes, whatever it might be, but we must not forget that it's actually the human being that makes the business. Without people in a business, we don't have a business. So we have to focus on the people.
And I think that for me is where I think the regions have got a really good competitive advantage. And you mentioned it before, you know, in a community like ours, I need your business to do well, because if your business does well, so does mine. That's right. And that's very much, well, that's my work mantra, but that's very much, I think, the platform of which most regional businesses bounce off. Yeah, there's not much point you and I competing in Main Street Gundawindi, because that's not going to get us very far. So I think that is a really good thing. And so using, and this is what I've loved when I've seen you speak and talk to other regional businesses, is it is a tool for us to do what we're doing better. It doesn't have to become the whole thing. So I think that helps take the fear away from businesses who might be either they're still in the garage or thinking, you know, that garage mentality, which I think is another good analogy, how we can help them through that. And it's really around what is it that they want to do and how can that become one of the ways that they do it.
Absolutely.
You also did some work with us and with Balonne Council around some of the mentoring work and being able to get in and help businesses. What were some of the things that you were doing in that space? What were some of those common, maybe we've already talked about it, but were there any other sort of bits and pieces that you kind of really identified? If you could wave a wand for some of us in small business out here, what would you love us to know or be doing?
A couple of things. First of all, do more reflection. Pause and reflect. That is so critical. Be willing to face the music. Be willing to face yourself. And really, I guess, own it, if I can put it that way. Don't hide away from things and issues that they may have come up in the past. Learn from them. The other thing that I noticed is that while there are some tremendous businesses in the regions, there's definitely lack of understanding around some of the key business principles, and that mainly revolves around financial management. So understanding how to use things like budgets, cash flow forecasts, how to read a profit and loss statement, and reviewing these on a regular basis and actually using them to make decisions in a business. The other thing that I've noticed is that strategic planning doesn't really exist. And most businesses that we've dealt with in the regions, and the past couple of weeks, I've worked with probably 24 small businesses in the regions. And out of those 24, 2 have had a strategic business plan. And we need to have these sort of tools in the business because it's what underpins, it's what actually helps you guide where you want to go and helps you achieve what you want to achieve without the kerfuffle of going all over the place and getting into these headspaces where you think, okay, I don't know what I'm doing, don't know where I'm going, and I've got too much to do, and I haven't got enough time in the day.
Yeah.
And probably last thing is time management.
Yeah.
Use your calendar, plan, schedule, and you'll find that you'll achieve a lot more.
Yeah, I think, you know, what's the most important thing to do, you know, is a regular question that gets asked in here as part of our reflection.
Yes.
You know, what's the most important thing we need to get done today or in the next 10 minutes or whatever that might be? Because when there's so many things going on, you can kind of either avoid the big stuff and focus on the easy jobs, which actually are not moving the needle.
That's exactly right. And that's where having a strategy in place is really key.
Correct.
Because if you've got a strategy and you've got multiple things that you need to get done, then choosing what you need to do makes a lot more, it becomes a lot easier because you look at your strategy, okay, am I doing what I'm doing right now in order to achieve an outcome that takes me to my strategy, or am I just sort of doing something because it's the easy thing to do and I'm hiding from what needs to be done, which might be the more difficult thing to do, but it's the thing that you should do.
Never do my staff call me on doing the stuff that I shouldn't be doing. Never happens in here. Always focused on the big thing. What's a kind of final word or a final thought before we let people know how to get in contact with you? Any kind of final thoughts or things you'd love to leave people with?
I'll start with that one because it's fairly straightforward. It's if you're working in it, when you start a business and when you have a small business, you're in the business. You can't find, it's very difficult to stop working in the business and start looking down at working on the business. But it's absolutely critical. As an example, most Australian businesses, when they start, Pete's spoken about reading balance sheets and P&L. Most small businesses don't even start at that point. So they get maybe a year in and things are looking pretty good. There's a few dollars coming in. I'll buy a block of land. I'll get a new car. All of a sudden, there's a big tax bill to pay. The importance of getting out of the business at least once a week and looking in and checking the bank accounts is to understanding how much of the money that's going through your business is yours and how much isn't.
Yeah.
And that's a really critical, really straightforward thing that causes a lot of failures in small business. But absolutely the most important thing is to somehow find the time to look into the business instead of working in it. I know this because I've made that mistake so many times. I'd have people working for me. They would be slow. They would be running into deadline issues and you know, it was almost like I'd pull them out of the seat and say, I'll get out of there, I'll do it myself.
Yeah.
And that is the worst thing you can be doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
You need to bring those people along with you. You need to make your team engage your vision.
Yeah.
And you can't do that unless you give them that autonomy.
Love it.
So you take a hit. Albert Einstein once said, nothing will change unless something moves. Yeah. And that's absolutely right.
Momentum's important. Pete, what about for you?
Simple. Accept failure, learn from it, get up, move on, and that's it. We all make mistakes. The key thing is to learn from it, and don't be shy from experimentation in business. There's, you know, while we have tools and guides and things like that, there is no silver bullet. It's about pushing forward, learning from other people, learning from your mistakes and successes, and just keep evolving what you're doing and keep evolving that mindset of yours.
remind people again of your business and where's the best place to get in contact with you or start following your work.
So if you check out mymalekso.com.au, malekso.com.au, you'll be able to see what we're about, all our contact details on the website, and yeah, shoot an email, send a pigeon.
We'll tag you
message. And
do stuff when this all goes out to everybody.
Sounds
so
good.
We'll make sure that's all there as well.
Sounds
Lovely.
good. Thank you.
So make sure I think it's really important that we have a good tribe of people around us. And I think the other thing sometimes from a regional perspective is sometimes it can be a bit lonely as a business person in regional or rural areas if you don't have a good network of people that are kind of interested in the same thing. And just out of population, there's not as many of us, therefore there won't be as many of us to get involved. But I always love catching up with Pete. We have really good conversations. It gives me some motivation to keep cracking on. It makes me remember the importance of reflection and getting on top of the business and having a look in and making sure I'm doing that with my staff. So thanks, gents, for joining us today.
Thank you for watching.
And we look forward to seeing what the conversations are that come out of you guys all watching this, and hopefully being able to reach out and get in contact with Pete and Chris. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.